All right, guys, I'm sure all of you have seen this poll by now. This is wild, dog. This is crazy right here. So look at this. I believe this is from Emerson. 41% of young voters say United Healthcare CEO killing was, quote, acceptable. So just to put that in perspective for you, the number of people who called it unacceptable, the percentage, was 40%. So more young folks, as a percentage, said it was acceptable than said it was unacceptable. Now, to be clear, the age group there is 18 to 29. That's how they felt about it. And then as you can see here, as you go up, the trend is generally that it kind of goes down, right? So 30 to 39-year-olds, that's my people, 23% said it was acceptable, which, by the way, still kind of crazy. It's like 2 out of every 10 people you talk to who are between the ages of 30 and 39 said it was acceptable. And also, let's be clear, I would expect these numbers to literally be 0 across the board, because who on earth would tell a pollster, yeah, that murder where homie got shot in the back, like, what do you want me to tell you, dog? What do you want me to say? Like, imagine telling a pollster that. To tell a pollster that, the degree to which you have to feel it to tell a pollster, yeah, it was all right. Like, that's crazy, bro. Holy shit. 40 to 49-year-olds, 13% say it was acceptable. 50 to 59, 8%. 60 to 69 was 9%, and 70 or more was 11%. I mean, so here's what they say. U.S. voters between the ages of 18 and 29 were more likely than their elders to accept the recent killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York City, new polling found. The reaction to Thompson's death and suspected shooter Luigi Mangione have captivated America. The event has laid bare public outrage toward the insurance industry, curiosity about Mangione's digital footprint, and a blatant lack of empathy from people online. So I actually think the better way to ask this, and I don't think you'd get fair numbers no matter how you ask it, but the closest you can get to fair numbers, I think, is, do you feel sympathy for the United Healthcare CEO who was killed? I think that's the best way to ask it, right? And I think that number would be significantly higher if you say, it would be significantly more people would say, no, I don't feel sympathy. Honestly, it'd probably be a majority that say, I don't really feel sympathy, right? Because that's the thing, right? Like, everybody knows murder is wrong. That's obvious. The question is, how do you react in a scenario, just to, draw an analogy here, where let's go back in the day when slavery existed and you had some slaves kill like a slave master. Well, obviously, that is morally way less egregious than somebody who shoots up a school, right? And so, like, people are going to categorize these things in where there's like a hierarchy of, how do I feel about each one of these individual circumstances? In other words, not all killings are created equal, if you will. And if you want to soften the analogy a little bit, I brought this one up the other day. The head of some indentured servant company was killed by somebody who was an indentured servant, right? It's like, yeah, you're going to feel less bad about that than some grandma who was killed in cold blood walking down the street minding her damn business, right? So I think the best way to ask this would have been, do you feel sympathy for the United Healthcare CEO killing? Or just for the United Healthcare CEO? And I think that probably would have been a majority, like, nah, I don't really care, right? People don't really care. They don't really care. Because they saw that, everybody kind of knew, oh, yeah, I know why that happened, right? Like, I said there was a small chance it was like this dude had some gambling debt or something and the mafia axed him, but it was overwhelmingly likely, like, oh yeah, so, this is because these motherfuckers reject countless price gouge you and then deny claims on the back end and people die as a result of it and people go bankrupt. Like, fucking of course, right? Of course. All right, so let's continue here. Most voters, 68%, think the actions of the killer were unacceptable, while 17% overall found them acceptable. Again, that's crazy. Basically, 2 out of 10 people who you talk to are saying to a pollster, that's acceptable. It is acceptable to murk this dude. 2 out of 10 people. That's wild, bro. Young voters were far more split. 41% found the killer's actions acceptable. 40% found them unacceptable. About 24% found them somewhat acceptable. and 17% said completely acceptable. Wow. Look, this ties into the story that we actually just discussed, right? They charged Luigi Mangione with terrorism. And the reason they charged him with terrorism is they genuinely want to have a chilling effect. They see the reaction online. They know people feel like this. And they're attempting to send a message, right? That even just feeling sympathy is over the line. I showed you guys this before, but Seb Gorka, who's going to be Trump's counterterrorism czar, he compared Mangione sympathizers to terrorists. And then you have Ken Klibenstein reporting from a few years back that U.S. military training describes socialism as a terrorist ideology, right? And they have them listed like right alongside neo-Nazis. And so I expect a lot more infiltration of left-wing groups, even though Mangione himself was actually not a leftist, right? But I expect much more infiltration of left-wing groups. I expect much more spying. I expect more situations like we saw with that woman in Lakeland, Florida, who basically cursed out her insurance company online and said, you guys are next. And she got arrested for it. They are attempting to crack down on this overtly and clearly so people get the message. You know, they don't want to see a reaction like this. Somebody said on Twitter, I wonder if they're going to make CEOs a protected class. I wonder if they're going to make CEOs a protected class. And you know what? That's a fair question. But it's hard when this many people are willing to say to a pollster this. I mean, good luck trying to put that toothpaste back in the tube, homie. Good luck. Because it's such a widespread sentiment, right? It's such a wide... This is why you saw in Ben Shapiro's comment section and Matt Walsh's comment section. I mean, these people are not... They're nobody's lefties. And they were like, yeah, I don't feel sympathy. And I don't feel sympathy because we all have horror stories, right? We know that this is a dirty business. We know that they're gangsters. They're a cartel. They're a mafia. Their whole business model is decrepit and immoral and unethical and shouldn't be allowed and it shouldn't exist, right? And so people feel that way because there's all the evidence and reason in the world to feel that way. And so it looks like they're really going to try to use this. This is like an inflection point where they say, oh, we need to crack down on this extremely strong so that we don't see anything like this again in the future and we don't get this sort of shocking outpouring and this reaction in particular, which I think is scaring a lot of people. It's like Bill Burr said. He was like, I don't care. Make the CEOs afraid again. Again, that feeling is coming from somewhere. And I'll also say this. The fact that the numbers here are what they are, it means that the actual number out there is higher. Way higher. Because these are just the people who are willing to say it to a pollster. That they find the actions acceptable. Right? There were other polls that put it in a more crass way where it was just like, do you support the murder? Or something like that. And that number was lower. But this softened it just a touch by saying, do you find the actions acceptable? So that softens it just a little bit, right? And the number went up. But again, this is who's just willing to say it to a pollster. So, I mean, look, you're not going to get that much sympathy for somebody from an industry that shouldn't exist because the whole industry is incredibly exploitative and immoral and unethical and leads directly to people going bankrupt and people dying. It's just like, it was always going to happen. It was always going to happen. But they're going to do everything they can to try to snuff out this response. There's no doubt about it. They're already doing it. As opposed to like looking at the reaction and using that as a catalyst to move towards a better system, they're going to do the opposite. They're going to double down on it, triple down on it, protect the system, protect the entrenched, decrepit, disgusting price gouging system, and not allow any dissent. That's the direction we're going. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.